You're listening to Tehachapod with Key Budge, Corey Costello, Greg Garrett, and Ashley Whitmore.
It's Tehachapod time. Key Budge, Corey Costello today. Corey, welcome back. You and I have not worked together in a little while.
You know, ever since we've been blessed with Maya's presence, you've been able to focus on other things.
It's true.
And,
true.
So I've done a few shows with Maya, but I'm glad to see you again, Key. It's been a while.
I've done a couple with Maya, and it seems like the dynamic. I mean, part of it. We've got a special guest today that we're gonna be talking trash.
Talking trash.
Yes.
That's the tease.
But
with since we brought Maya in, Maya had not done podcasts before she came here, so I wanted to give her experience with that. So I wanted her to experience working with all of the other hosts.
Right.
So now that she's gone through, now we can kind of get back to some of our normal us getting to work together again.
Who better for her to learn from than two great pros like ourselves?
Exactly right.
We're just passing on to the next generation.
Ashley Cortes with WM is the one giggling in the background, and she's talking trash. She's ready to talk trash today.
I'm known. I have a reputation to talk a little trash.
And you're back, and you've known Corey and I for a while, so I know you're enjoying our banter that we go through.
She's used to it.
Yes.
But we appreciate you coming back. This is now the third time you've been on Tehachapod.
I feel so lucky. I'm like, wow, because I know how big this podcast is and what an influence it has. So I love coming on here.
Well, we appreciate that.
That's why we bring her back, because she talks us
That's
up.
right.
I know how big this thing is. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, it was like Joe Rogan and us. We're right there.
No one else is listening or paying attention, but Ashley's blowing our egos up.
Right.
Well, we said we were teasing, talking trash, and that's what we want to do today, because the state of California says, hey, hold on, residents of California, there's something new coming your way.
Yes.
And what do we have to look forward to? Or let's just say, I'm going to put it look forward to. The glass is half full. The glass is half full. We are going to be fortunate enough, all right, folks, read the sarcasm, that we're going to get a third can. And it's not your choice. It's not our choice. The state of California says, thou shalt do this.
Right. It actually went into effect back in 2022. Yeah. SB 1383, the state's kind of one size fits all approach to implementing another separating of our food waste. So getting that out of the trash container and getting that into another container so that it can be sorted out of the landfill, reduce, greenhouse gas emissions and stuff like that. So they had a goal. And so we've kind of been working together with the city to get this going. And, Corey did a great job at putting it off as much as he could for these past few years. But we've come to that point now where we're going to be implementing the new and exciting organics container here in the city of Tehachapi.
It's been a probably at least 3-4 year journey.
Yes.
Knowing this was because it passed in 16, 17, 18, something like that, with the thought of implementing it in 2022. A couple things happened. And there's a lot of provisions of this Senate bill that aren't just the third organics ban. That's a part of it, but honestly, if you would see my yearly, annual, quarterly reporting that's required to the state, there's so many other little facets of this law that we have to comply with from the state, reporting wise, tracking wise, and all kinds of stuff. But initially it was supposed to go into effect in 2022. I found a little gray area where it was look, they had act of God in that, as a reason why you need to put it off. And I said, well, hello, COVID-19 pandemic, we don't want to go for a cost increase when people weren't working, and that sort of thing. So we kind of got a little grace there. And then there was an assembly bill passed that basically said, look, CalRecycle, who's the governing board of all these programs, we might, SB 1383 technically goes into effect in 2022, but there's a 2-year grace period of CalRecycle can't fine you during this 2-year period as long as you're working towards the ultimate goal of implementing the service. So we started that 2-year clock. went past it still, but we were still working. And the reason why we went past it was, and that was a request from the state, and I let them know from the beginning, annually we have our rate increase July 1, that new fiscal year, and it's usually a CPI increase between the city's expenses for administering this, and then, WM's expenses for, all the things they do. And most of that money just goes directly back to them. And so we got to make sure, obviously, they're meeting the cost of service. So that was the second part of that was, to make sure that we were able to meet this in a timely manner and only do one rate increase. And so technically the deadline was like March of this year. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, we're not going to do 2 rate increases. We're not going to tell people, hey, this is your new rate, and go through the 218 protest period, then turn around a few months later and say, oh, by the way, this is the new rate. So we're able to get that. So yeah, it's been a 4-year journey. We're finally at the point where we've done everything from the state standpoint. And I mean, I frankly can't believe we actually pulled it off, because when I looked at this years ago, and I'm like, there's no way like I'm going to be able to pull this off, because there was so much required. But WM was a huge help in doing that. And the state has been helpful. Some of the Cal Recycle people, we bounced around with a couple of different reps, but we've got a solid relationship now, and they've been very helpful and willing, because more and more jurisdictions have had problems. We weren't the only one who said, wait, what about this? What about this? There are much larger cities all over the state that are having much larger problems than we are with this. So we're finally through all the, the steps, and we're just getting ready for that third can to roll out, and then all the other stuff in the background.
So SB 1383, what does that mean? That State Bill 1383. You said, Corey, 2016, 2017, somewhere in there.
18 past, whatever.
And then, so here we are, 2024, July 1st. It's done. We've gone through every step. We've pushed it back and studied and made sure that we were educating ourselves to roll it out the best that we can. Mm-hmm. We're rolling out July 8th.
So the carts will start rolling out to the residents the week of June 17th.
Okay.
So you'll start seeing containers out, that third container being delivered. With every cart, there will be a service guide in a baggie tied to the cart, so that residents have a complete breakdown of what they get with their service, how to utilize each container, kind of what goes where, the holiday schedule, tips on how to sort your food waste in your kitchens, out of your trash and stuff like that. It's really about making a system in your kitchen. That's like step one. And so we have all that education going out, and that'll start rolling out June 17th. And then the week of July 8th is when services will start on the organics.
And the easy part, I guess I'd say, about organics, unlike curbside recycling, which I think when I started here at about 2017, it was just finally, the city was very far behind in the state laws there, and actually at the borderline of being fined over not having a curbside program, until WM came in and they said, we're going to help you get compliant, because we don't want this headache either. And so that's an every other week service. Organics by law has to be every week. So your service day is not going to change. It's just 1 week you'll have 2 cans out, your trash and your organics, and 1 week you'll have 3 cans out, your trash, organics, and your mixed recycling. So there's not a huge change. It's just going to be, some days you'll have 3 carts instead of 2 on the curb. So what's implementing is that every week this new cart will be picked up. Yes. Every week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it the same size cart as we have for our trash?
It's going to be a 64 gallon. So it'll be a little smaller.
Yeah, trash is 96.
Okay, yes. So it's 2/3 the size. So it's a little bit smaller.
It's about the same size as your curbside recycling one, I think. Is that also? That's a 64 too. So,
okay.
Yeah, your blue top will look similar.
And we should say we're WM services the City of Tehachapi on a residential and commercial basis. So as we're talking about this is particularly for City of Tehachapi residents.
Correct.
There might be some bleed over to Golden Hills. They've got a different
hauler,
provider.
But they've actually already started the service. Okay. So they've already, so this information may be helpful in understanding what goes where and that sort of thing, and the system like Ashley was talking about, because they've already started the service, and I've developed a system in my house, relatively simple. And it seems to work so far. So, and actually does, I'll give it this much credit. It takes a lot, and the whole point of this is diversion, right? Keep it out of the landfill. They want to go make compost and mulch out of it. It's fine. But I've noticed a lot more room inside my trash can. because I'm already putting recyclables in their spot, your bottles, cans, and all that stuff. And then I'm also putting, now the organics. I do a lot of food soiled paper. I got kids, paper plates, pizza boxes, that stuff can all go in. It goes in your organics bin. It does not go in your recycling bin.
Right.
And so those types of things, and basic vegetable scraps. I don't really do meat stuff unless I know the pickup day is coming up, so it doesn't have to sit outside very often. Simple waste basket under the sink. Stuff goes in there, and then when I dump it out, I just rinse out the basket because it's right there by the sink. Works fine. And I've noticed probably at least 2 bags a week less worth of trash in the bin.
So the recycling is not going to change. You continue your recycling habits. That's going to continue unchanged.
Yes, continue doing that. The bottles, cans, paper, cardboard, glass, all goes in your recycling. It gets collected every other week. This new organics is actually not only food soiled paper, napkins, food waste, but your yard waste. So your grass trimmings, your tree trimmings, your, weeds, leaves, all that will go in and mix in with the food waste.
Okay. I remember over 20 years ago living in the Antelope Valley, and we had 3 bins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We had a blue recycle, we had a green for yard waste, and then we had our trash. But we didn't put the food waste in at that time with the grass clippings.
It was just yard waste.
Right.
It's considered yard waste bin. Yeah.
So now so all the yard waste goes in, and now we're adding this soiled material.
Yeah. Food scraps and food soiled paper.
Yeah. Because they are able to break down organically, thus the name organic.
Yeah, and they basically, this goes to a big facility, and we in this guide that Ashley referred to that will be on everybody's can when it gets rolled to your house starting the week of June 17th. There's a description of each bin. You've got a dark gray with the blue lid, that's going to be your recycling. You've got a dark gray with a green lid, that's going to be your organics, and then your dark gray body with the dark lid is going to stay your trash. But there's a little cheat sheet of what goes where, and so on the organic side, food waste, yard waste, produce, food sold paper, coffee filters, tea bags, meat, fish, poultry, dairy, bread, pasta, rice, grains, coffee grounds, all that stuff can go in there. And that will then be collected. It's going to be sent briefly to the landfill here in Tehachapi, kind of dumped out, sorted to make sure it's pretty clean, and then it'll get trucked by the county and the waste haulers down to Mount Vernon, where basically they just cook it at like 4,000 degrees and turn, get rid of all the stuff, but they also keep some of the healthy microbes and all that that turn it into a compost. So, and then we turn around kind of that cycle. We turn around, we procure it as a city for various projects. Down the road, probably next year, we'll have some community giveaways where we will literally just bring big piles of compost, and you can bring your pickup truck and your trailers and just take whatever you like to your heart's desire and put it in your garden. So there's this sort of free give back as well. We're required as part of the law too to procure X amount of this material back into the community.
Right.
Well, that'll be nice. You're able to, I go through a lot of mulch.
Yeah.
So if I get back my own organics waste a year later.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. Some of your yard waste
after
from
it's been processed.
A couple years. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a pretty big kind of loop, and we're already doing some of that. We haven't had the curbside service yet, and it's coming shortly, but we've been doing a lot of procurement stuff for the last couple of years because some of those provisions of the law we're still required to do, even though we didn't have the curbside service. So anytime we do a project now in the city, all the public works, engineering people, they know, hey, if I'm putting in mulch at a new park, if I'm putting in compost on an annual basis, they know to give me all the totals, because I turn around and I give those back to the state and say, we've procured this much compost or this much mulch over the last year. We actually have a target based on how big we are. The state's got this formula on what we need to procure from organics derived sources, whether it's compost, mulch, power from biogas, renewable natural gas from biogas, power from biosources. What else is there? There's a bunch of little.
There's paper products.
Yeah, paper products. And here's a story on this too, just to tell you how much we had to get into this. So there was a small loophole in the law. I didn't see it as a loophole, but I saw it as they talk about procurement, and they say, look, procurement doesn't mean the city has to go buy something. You just have to acquire it, or you can actually give it away and count it as your procurement. So for us, a lot of our procurement goes to our wastewater treatment plant, because that's a different podcast, but once all the stuff in the wastewater treatment plant, the solids are, filtered out and they go in some drying beds and they dry out in the sun. And then those are scooped onto a truck. And those are, we have a composting company that takes those out and they go out to like way out in the desert places and they become like erosion control. They don't use them on crops because it's human waste, but it can be used. Well, we get procurement credit for giving that stuff to a composting company to go and apply it somewhere else. So we get credit for that. But we also, they want you to get a certain amount of power from these biosources, certain amount of natural gas from biosources. And so I went and looked up every power bill that we have on a city facility, every natural gas bill, and every therm we use in a city facility over the course of a year. And I reached out to SoCal Gas and I said, how much of your portfolio is renewable on bio? And they said about 1%. Okay, great. Went to Southern California Edison, our friend Cal Rossi. I said, Cal, how much of your portfolio? And I was looking it up and he goes, that's about 1%. We're planning on more down the road. Okay, great. Took those 1% numbers because every electron on the power grid, every therm in the gas pipeline, it's all sharing the same pipeline, the same grid. It may have been made a different way, but it's all getting, and people procure it in their name and they feel better about themselves if they're getting renewable power from Tehachapi sent up to the Bay Area, but we all know that power is already in the same wires. So I took that 1% and I applied that towards. And the state did come back and one person said, how'd you do that? And I told them, I said, oh yeah, that makes sense. Another person said, I don't know if you can do that. And I said, well, I checked with WM. They said I could. And then they actually went back and looked and they said, you know what, you're right. There is no provision in the law that says how you must get that power delivered to you or that natural gas delivered to you. You just have to procure it. So we get credit for that as well. These are the little details of this law and the things they want you to do as part of this on top of the organic service.
Yeah.
So
there's so much more to it than just the collection service.
Yeah, I was just curious since WM was able to help you. Does WM have any like personal tax advice that they can send? Or
I know.
No, here's the thing. I was literally on SoCal Gas's website going through there. They have an annual report they publish every year talking about their sourcing and this and that. And so I was trying to find the number of what was their bio generation of renewable natural gas, and then what is their future plans. And it took me hours to figure this out. And I literally sat there and I'm like, I am physically right now trying to figure out how they are recycling cow waste into gas, right? I never thought in my life this is what I'm doing. I'm here trying to measure the impact of manure into our gas purchases. I mean,
no, we need to hire insane. Corey. He's the investigator. He knows how to find all the.
I operate solidly within the gray area, let's just say. And but it was good. And I instantly went out and I shared that little factoid with all my other friends in different cities and said, hey, by the way, for your procurement, you can use this formula and get the percentages of what you're using credited back to your account. So I helped fight the man a little bit, I guess
Nice.
You would say. But
well, so with this rollout June 17th, everyone will be getting that cart. You, Ashley, and your team at WM are going to be doing a series of educational pieces for residents, and we've got you booked at all kinds of places.
Yes, and I encourage the public to come out to any and everything and spread the word. We have a council workshop coming up the beginning of May 6th, so we'll be out at the council meeting giving a brief presentation on what's to come and how to utilize and just some tips and tricks and how to have a successful program. And then we will be at the chamber. We'll be the speaker of the chamber luncheon. So that'll be on June 19th, I believe. And so if we invite, the business and resident community to come out and learn about that one's going to be more interactive, I think, getting people to learn how to sort and kind of test our knowledge. And then we'll be at the farmers markets. So in the end of June and beginning of July, you can come to the booth. I think we'll be with the city booth and we'll be there to answer any questions you have and provide any information. We're also developing some magnets to develop so that residents can take them and put those on their fridge as a reminder of what goes in each container. And so we'll be around a lot at community events and just kind of promoting the service and how to utilize it successfully.
And, a big kudos as well to the residents in general. We were in a meeting the other day and Brenda Higgins, who does all of she's the boots on the ground operationally here in the entire Tehachapi area, but specifically in the city. She was talking about recycling, and she said, I get such quality material out of the city residents. Like, the recycling it's washed, it's source separated. Like, I don't have a lot of problems, which is great, because when and this goes kind of why some of the business services are changing. But when you throw trash in with your recyclables, sometimes it'll kind of taint the load and that sort of thing, and the recyclable is no longer usable. They can't be recycled. They have to be thrown away. So kudos to folks around here, because we get pretty good diversion numbers on the recycling materials. So, we'll see if that translates into organics down the road as folks get used to it.
Now, there's going to be some people that remember the MRF. Mm-hmm. The MRF is gone.
Yeah.
Right. So, a lot of people refer back to it. Well, it just goes to the MRF and it gets sorted.
Used to.
Yeah. But that's what some people still think happens. And that went away.
Right.
And
with the regulation, things got stricter. So that's how they called it. Dirty MRFing doesn't really suffice anymore in the state's eyes. So we kind of had to clean it up. And so we had to go, especially in the commercial line of things, it's going to change, come July, because they used to throw everything in the dumpster and it gets sorted. Well, now they're going to have a separate recycling container. So whether that's a cart or a dumpster, that'll be dependent on the business needs, but it's now going to be separated, and it'll be a commingled recycling, just like you have at your home. And so you'll be able to put all your cardboard and your bottles, cans, paper, all that in this recycling cart. And that'll be included. The cart you get with the business trash service, you get a recycling cart and an organics cart with your trash rate.
Yeah. And that's one of those hard things. I think some people, you're right, Keith, still think, because many years ago, there was one container and it all just went to the MRF. And then, when Ben's was here, they had people that would sort through it, pull out the recyclables and stuff into the trash. But then come about 2017, the state said, well, you can't, recycling is getting contaminated because it's sitting inside with trash, oil, whatever. It's recycling the contaminated recyclables. You're going to have to source separate that portion. And then the MRF was just kind of used to separate the business trash. So your dumpsters and that sort of thing, same concept. But then even that with these regulations say, okay, business recycling needs to be source separated as well, because we to make sure we're not contaminating the cardboard and all that stuff. And a lot of this too comes from the global recycling market. China, several years ago, they passed what they call a sword policy, which people were taking advantage of China by sending them garbage wrapped in cardboard, bales and bales of it. And then China was, thinking they're going to use it and recycle whatever. And it was mostly garbage. And so they actually said, no, we're not going to take a lot of loads from the United States, which really put the recycling market on its ear here in California, specifically because of our access to China with shipping. And so the regulations got tighter, the market got tighter. And so it was more and more important to have quality recyclables to be able to find a market to sell those things down the road.
Wow.
That's amazing.
But people still think it's still there.
I know.
It's still there. It's just used for other things now. And it's a lot cleaner than it. If you drive by it, it looks so much better. WM's done a fantastic job doing that. It looks great now. That facility off the freeway is no longer, it looks like there's just piles and piles of recyclables everywhere.
Right.
It's great.
And I know that, and I know this because we hear the chatter and people go, I don't want a third bin. I don't have room for a third bin. You're getting a third bin.
Yeah. And we went through
it's not our choice.
We went through the legal process, and what we pointed out to people, we actually did a rate study. We had a consultant come in, work with ourselves and WM to say their costs, our costs, are they reasonable for delivering the service? They found yes, and also had a few other things in their reports and suggestions. But we went through the process, the Proposition 218, and to let people know this is your current rate. This is your rate come July 1 for this extra service, which roughly was like $6 a month on the residential side. And we had 20 written protests that were submitted to the city clerk, and not a single person showed up to protest the rate at the public hearing as well. We needed about 1,500 and change to successfully protest that. And even if it were to happen, we were still going to have to pay for it. So we were looking at to upwards of over $1 million in a couple years down the road based on growth factors and all that stuff if it didn't pass. So we didn't receive a lot of pushback on it through the 218 process. Everybody was notified. And so, we'll see how that goes. I'm sure you're right, Keith. There'll still be people that don't want it, and I understand, but at the same time, like, we went through the process and not a lot of people spoke up and said, I don't want this.
And we just don't have the choice. This is coming downhill from Sacramento.
Yes, this isn't a city or WM.
Yeah. I didn't wake up one day and go, you know what? How can I charge more people for trash service and make, add another route to the streets? No, I didn't do that one day.
Yeah. What we're doing today, this is a part of the educational process. And we try to do this so that way people are informed. We're giving you the information. You don't have to like it. Yes. But it is the real information that's available. And this came downhill, as we talked about, unfunded. There's no money that came from the state to come along with this. Right. It's just, here's the new rules, put it in play.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And that means the community, the residents have to pay for it one way or the other.
And that's how the law was written. The law was written to allow jurisdictions, whether it be a city or a community services district, to go out and ask residents for more money to pay for it. If they said no, you still had to pay for it. So for us, it's like, okay, we either ask the residents to pay for this service, or we're going to hire fewer police officers. We're going to have to cut back on road projects, like all these things that didn't make a ton of sense in order to pay for this out of the general fund, because it would be tipping over $1 million within the next 3-4 years.
Well, and if we said, okay, and you pushed it back to the very last day possible.
And beyond.
But had we just said, forget it, we're not doing it. Go pound sand, Sacramento.
Yeah.
We're not doing this. The fines that now are associated with this are heavy.
$10,000 a day.
And that's what would get charged to the city, which then the residents are going to pay
$3.6 million a year.
Yeah.
In fines.
So when you look at those costs, it's like, if we say no, screw it, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
Sacramento, you go ahead and keep your ideas. We're not accepting them here. They'll then take $3.6 million from our operating budget, which is the tax dollars, that go right back into doing roads, public safety.
And that's what the thing too, it's not like they're going to send us a bill for these fines. They'll just keep the money that comes back to us from the state. So franchise taxes, things like gas tax money, we just wouldn't get it back. They just wouldn't be transferring the money back to you, the residents, in the form of tax revenue that helps us provide service. They just wouldn't give it to us. So we just have this $3.6 million hole in the budget.
And I've got a feeling too that if you fall into that category, then you're not eligible for other grants and things for road improvements and things that we're very successible in obtaining. There's a whole ripple effect.
Anytime you need state assistance, you would not receive it.
Right.
You'd be blacklisted basically.
So I just want to make sure that those that are listening are understanding that we looked at the different avenues, and those other avenues do not pencil out. There's going to be a cost increase, and this, with the study, is the most balanced to be able to spread it out amongst everybody without impacting the general fund, which would then take away from streets, public safety, and other services that we provide.
Yeah. And it's one of the things too, where I'm the one who was responsible for helping implement this thing. And I didn't like it from day one. And it wasn't like one of those things where I was happily charging forward. Like I said, I didn't think that I'd be, in charge of this one day. But honestly, using it, now that I'm already using it, it really is not that terrible, because like I said, it's saving room in the trash can for other things, and so you're not having such a full bin, and there is that aspect, so that helps. And then it's also long-term does help kind of get the life of the landfill stretched out a little further.
And that's important. That's something that we should recognize, because our Tehachapi landfill does have
it's getting pretty
life
close.
expectancy.
The life expectancy within the next 5 years or so. Now, will it change your operation as a resident who wants to go and drop stuff off? No, it'll just become a transfer station, which then means the stuff's going to have to be taken from here down to Bena via somebody else's truck. So you won't really change your but it's easier now and a little more cost effective just to be able to bury it on site as it is at the landfill. So it will, hopefully, we'll squeeze maybe a few more years out of the landfill. We'll see. That's on the county side of things, but I think the life expectancy is within the next 10 years for sure. And so this might help add a few more years to that number.
So Ashley, let's talk about these 3 bins again. Let's kind of go back now that we've got everyone hopefully understanding the philosophy and the rules that have come down. the 3 bins that we're going to have, you've got them color coded on the lids.
Yes. And I want to make a note to the public that they're going to be transitioned as they need repair. So if they're breaking or you lose, there's a lid broken, you're not going to get all these 3 new containers, starting June 17th. The one you will be getting starting June 17th is the organics one. So the new one. Your other carts will remain the same, and they'll be switched out to these new colors as they break or need replacement. So I wanted to keep that, because there can be confusion and people are like, oh, I didn't get that. Well, my trash doesn't look like that. And so that's going to happen gradually.
So will this be the first bin of because I don't live in the city. So this is news to me.
Some are we've already started the process as they break, they get the black, the black lid, but always check the lid. So they're all branded on top and hot stamped with what goes in the container. So if you look at the lid, that's what that cart is. So it'll either be recycling, trash, or organics, and it'll have the images and wording of what goes into that container.
Yeah, and if you do have, to Ashley's point, and this was something we decided, because a lot of the when WM took over this franchise, when they purchased Ben Sanitation, there was still a lot of bins out there, and there still are some that still say Ben's on the side. They're still functionally working, and as opposed to having to roll out everything, and it could cost thousands of dollars to roll out new stuff, they've been replaced as they break, because some of the older ones are end of life. I think every day I have a couple emails that come through our request tracker. Either somebody calls City Hall, which I'd encourage folks to do. If a wheel breaks, the lids like to break a lot now. The hinges wear out. So some of those older carts, or the lids just fall into the truck, or sometimes the entire can falls into the truck, believe it or not, because they're not quite made for WM's trucks. They were assumed bins. And so my favorite's when people call and say, someone stole my trash. No one stole it. It's in the back of the truck. WM will bring you a new one. Don't worry. We'll fill out this request for you. Because sometimes they fall in the back of the truck, or lids fall off when they flap around. So if you do have those damages, let us know on our website. You can go to our liveuptehachapi.com, click on the report of concern. There's a trash category. Let us know. You can also call City Hall, and they're really good at filling out the request tracker for you. And then WM gets that. I get a copy, and we make sure it gets fulfilled. And usually within the next day, it's done. So.
Okay. Educational process, Ashley. You guys are working also in the schools too. And my grandson's the one that tells me how to do things.
Yeah.
So he's 7. So I know that the educational process, you guys are educating at all age levels.
Right. Yes. We have our field rep, Frank. He was really great at being out in the community. He just did a tour of all the local schools out here in Tehachapi, and he went and did presentations and assemblies about recycling. And it's funny, one of the city staff members right now was just telling me that her son was at one of those presentations, and she's like, he came home, he's like, did you know this was recyclable? Like this, we're supposed to be putting this and this. And so she was like, he learned so much. And I'm like, that's where we need to start. Like that's the ones that are going to remember, and they take that home and they teach the parents how to properly sort. And so we're really big on educating in our schools. And so that's something we've been doing proactively.
Yeah. And the kid, you're right. My 7-year-old's the same way. He's all over it now. What bin does this go in? Like he'll ask me that question. But just to go through the list, we went through the list of what goes in the organics when that rolls out. Your trash will be your foam cups and containers, plastic bags and film. That's that's probably one of the few things that's like always straight trash. Old garden hoses, broken dishes, and that kind of stuff. Candy and food wrappers, diapers. That's important. Diapers and pet waste are important. Those are not organic material. Well, they are technically, but for the purpose of recycling, no, diapers and pet waste are not organic materials. So those stay in the trash bin, and then clothing and textiles go in the trash bin as well. And then your mixed recycling, which is the blue lid stuff, that's still as normal. Plastic bottles and containers, food and beverage cans, glass bottles, paper, and then flattened cardboard and paperboard. I will point that out. Flattened and or cut up cardboard. For some reason, it's just not a wife thing to do that. Everyone I talk to, my wife throws them in the garage and says, well, you cut them up. Never. Or open the, I remember how mad my dad used to get when I was growing up when people wouldn't flatten boxes. And I'm like, what's his problem? Now I get it. I'm at that point. People don't flatten their boxes or cut them up. It bothers me.
You're that guy.
Because like one box takes up like a third of the can if you don't cut it up. You just cut the tops off.
This is what I do. Okay. The biggest box. Then there's one smaller. It's the nesting eggs. So my boxes are filled with smaller boxes.
Like Russian nesting dolls.
Yeah. So you get the one big box, but it's filled, with a conditionally smaller. So that's how I roll.
Your process.
Yeah, that's my process.
I just cut them all. I smash them sometimes, but when it's a lot of the Amazon orders roll in, and you got to get the razor and blade out and cut them into little panels.
And sometimes we get people that think we didn't service it, but the box gets nudged, in there, and stuff gets trapped underneath or something, and then they're like, they didn't service, and it's like, well, no, like you didn't break down the box, and it's stuck in there, and it, the truck.
I can see that happening.
Yeah, so that happens.
Especially a big one when someone pushes it down in there and it gets wedged at the bottom.
The biggest box stays.
Break them up, people. Just cut them on the edges with the razor knife, and then you'll be able to get so much more in that bin.
Yes, I just stomp on them or make it with my daughter. Just try to make it as flat as possible. But I did want to note one thing here in Tehachapi that we can do in the organics. I always prefer to teach sorting organics without any bags or anything, but technically you could use a compostable bag. If we have residents that are concerned and don't want to throw the food waste directly into the cart, you can use compostable bags. The Kern County landfills do accept those. They just have to meet a ASTM standard. So it's a certain standard which will be all over our website. So our dedicated Tehachapi residential website will have that information on what those bags are. And I think eventually as we gear up, they'll probably start selling them here. But I always just train myself because I feel like eventually they're not going to be acceptable. Right. So I always just train myself, and I suggest to the residents, just do it without any bags. I mean, I always
feel
bag paper bag is great.
That's where I'm going. I'm going to Save Mart. Paper. Is it paper or plastic? Paper. Give me paper.
Yeah, that's what I do. If I know for the day and I cook and I put all my scraps in there, and then you just empty the whole thing into your organics container. Don't even have to worry about. But there's a lot of tips and tricks that can, because we hear about odors. Oh, well, it's going to smell. But when it's mixed with that grass and stuff, it kind of mitigates that. And you could go as far as baking soda, there's all kinds of little tips like that you can do. But I like to wait until closer to my service day, and I'll go through my leftovers and just kind of put everything all, the day before service or something. And I've heard people that freeze their leftovers and then they just put the frozen. Wow. So there's a lot of things you can do. Yeah, that's like hardcore stuff. But I just put mine the day before, and I just get all my leftovers that are going to go bad and kind of do a fridge haul of all my stuff. Lawn
clippings will get an odor if you don't.
Sure.
They
don't get emptied. Yeah, right. Exactly. I actually took the concern because the smell thing had come up a lot, even in our own council meetings, because we actually adopted this service probably over a year ago into our municipal code. We just had basically paused on any enforcement until we actually were providing the service. But the council up to a couple of years ago were bringing up the concerns about smell. So over spring break, I was in San Diego, which they've had this program for a while now, and staying at an Airbnb, and they had in the alleys where the trash was at, and they had 2 organics bins. I was literally there smelling like seeing if I could smell anything, and I couldn't. All right, so I was letting you know. I was doing some field testing to make sure that in other places it wasn't smelling. So I think you're okay on the smell side of things.
And we've been doing it out here with the businesses for years.
Yes.
I mean, since I've been with Debian, 5 years.
2018 we rolled out. 2019 we rolled out the business organics. So you've seen some of the green carts around town already by commercial businesses. They've had those for for a couple of years now.
Yeah. And I mean, some heavily utilize those, and we don't have issues with, you know.
Yeah. And it's some of those things too. And it's also understanding what to put in there. I think you said your timing early on with some of the business ones, some of the folks they were fine with it, but they almost overused it. You know, they got certain restaurant got a meat order in and they were actually trimming it and they just threw all the meat fat in there. Well, that created a problem sitting in the alley for a week until it got serviced. And then a little education, and they've kind of they changed the way they used it, but they still use it. So yeah, there's the businesses have been doing it for a couple years now without much issue. So it's just a matter of training. And like I said, mine's just a small waste basket under the sink. A lot of paper plates, paper towels, napkins go in there. Some of the vegetable stuff when I'm cooking. I like to cook, so I'll throw some of that stuff in there. Eggshells and whatnot.
Coffee grinds,
eggshells. Just throw those in there. And then it's the same thing. Like when you go out to, go to the grocery store and you're like, oh, I bought salad last week that I didn't eat. Take it out of the plastic bag first of all, because I caught my wife the other day. I'm like, okay, just because these cucumbers came in a plastic bag doesn't mean the plastic bag that says cucumbers is now in organics bin. That's not how that works. It's still plastic. It's got to go in the garbage. So
you got to take that extra step to kind of like.
Yeah, just because you finish your cucumbers, you're like, oh, well, this bag says cucumbers. That's organic. No. The plastic bag still goes in the trash.
All right. Well, let's go. Let's recap. And this is all coming very quickly. I mean, it's been a slow process to get here, but now it's here. And now it's going to happen, and carts are going to start to arrive June 17 around the City of Tehachapi. This is going to be residential only, correct? Or the businesses
that don't have recycling or organics will be getting one with their service as well.
Yeah. So, and then they'll also have their source separated recycling on that, which we talked about briefly as well. So they'll have that happening as well for their mixed recycling. But the organics piece, majority of it's going to be residential impact.
Okay, and that's going to, and this one will be gray with a green lid.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay, and then there will be a trifold, the one that you and I we're all looking at right now in hand, will be attached to that can.
Right.
Which is, it's very self-explanatory. Read it, and it all makes sense. It even gives you examples. So, and this will go into play the week of after the holiday, July 4th, because the first
throws off the schedule. Yeah, we're off a day.
We're like, 4th of July is on a Thursday. We said if we start this July 1, it's going to be mass confusion.
Already, people are going to be ticked off. You didn't come pick it up.
By a day, so let's give it safe.
Yeah, so we're pushing it back a week.
Yeah.
So the second week of July, which is July 8th, will be the first pickup of organics.
Yes. So if your service day of your trash is Monday, then you would put your organics out on Monday. So it's the same day as your trash day.
And it's the second truck that rolls through. Or is it the same truck and they have two separate compartments that pick this up?
No, different trucks.
Two different trucks.
Yeah.
Now the trucks may look the same because they all look the same. And our recycling trucks and the trash, those are all cleaned out.
Right.
So it may be the truck may come at 9 a.m, get your trash, and then come back 3 hours later to pick up your organics. Could be the same driver, but he's already had his truck dumped. It's been cleaned out, and he's now picking up the organics.
We do hear that. Well, they picked up the same truck came and did my recycling, and they're putting it all in the same. But no, it's you
guys. It goes through a cleaning process in between the load.
Yeah, we can't mix. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And especially when we take it over to the landfill, everything's checked, and we have to make sure we separate. And we are going to start putting diversion reports together for the city so they can see, it'll be exciting to see the city's diversion grow.
Okay. And then, so we've got that every week. It's going to take place. You're going to have two pickups. One will be trash. One will be organics. And then every 2 weeks, as it is right now, the recycles will come and pick up.
Yeah.
So you have 3 containers getting serviced.
3 containers getting served. One gets serviced every 2 weeks. No change. It's the same recycle bin that you currently have.
Right.
The only change is you'll put 2 cans out every week. One for organics, one for trash.
Yep.
Right.
All right. I'm kind of getting it. Okay.
Simple.
It took us almost an hour, but I think it's sinking in.
Yeah. And we're not, I had the question too about someone was asking me because some other cities have been very heavy handed in the implementation of this. To the point of, it's like I've got family in other cities and they've had issues where, you're getting letters or whatever because, we found a head of lettuce in your trash. Like, no, we're not going that crazy, but requests don't throw trash in the organics bin and throw some leaves on top and think that like that's going to get through because it will be monitored and they'll kind of know. So don't do that and just use it. and is the best of your ability, as little or as much as you want, and everything will be good. But we're not going really heavy-handed on, well, we noticed that you put a cardboard box in the trash. It should have been, no, we're not going that route. Other places have, we are not that.
It's always when it gets abused. And
yes.
Then all of a sudden, again, there are higher powers that come down and say, thou shalt now do this.
Yes. And we're looking really only for like gross pollutants, gross contaminants, that sort of thing. So if you're throwing motor oil in the organics bin, like, we're going to be able to see that.
You're going to hear about that.
Someone's going to knock on your door.
Okay.
So that's the hope. I really don't want to be necessarily policing this, so to speak. But we are required to have reports to the state and do some route reviews and make sure that people's cans. The state came out here on a review of businesses, and it cracked me up. I mean, we spent like 4 hours, Ashley and I and a few other people, literally looking in dumpsters and cans across businesses across the city. And it cracks me up, some of the folks from Cal Recycle, and this is their job and this is their passion, but they get so excited, like, this is a great looking organics bin. They're all fired up. They're all fired up about it. And then they'd be like, well, this one can use some work.
Yeah.
These people, it was so funny. I mean, especially how excited they got when they saw one that was being used appropriately. They were like jazzed up.
Well, everyone's got their thing.
Everyone has their calling. This is not mine, by the way. I'm just saying this got put upon me years ago, and it is a fascinating world, though. I mean, it really is. Like, it's fascinating, all the logistics involved in trash and recycling services. It's crazy. And one of these days, we're going to go down to your WM's big Sun Valley recycling facility and take a look at this crazy automation machine, because all your recyclables here in Tehachapi go straight down to Sun Valley, and WM separates them even more based on type down there and then puts them out on the market. So that's the good news, and that's what's great, having a partner like WM with a big national corporation with contacts across the globe to sell these recyclables, because there have been issues with smaller haulers just having stuff stacked up in their lots for years sometimes, because they don't have the resources to get this out on the market. So you can be assured everything you're recycling in Tehachapi is getting back out on the recycling market and being turned into something else.
You know way too much about this.
It's scary how much
so good. I'm like, do you want to come work at WM?
Only if I could drive a truck. I do. I want to do that one. I like to do like a little truck ride along one day. Maybe we'll roll a video. Like, we'll do a video.
Yes,
a day in the life.
Should.
Yeah, exactly.
But to really kind of hit home, this has been a part of your daily, maybe not daily, but at least weekly work life over the last several years.
Yeah. If you look at our budget, we allocate everybody's salary because we're a small city, right? So nobody is really in one sort of department. And so some of us, like myself, I have different responsibilities across different departments, and a portion of our salaries, especially of those that are like connected to enterprise funds, which waste and recycling is an enterprise fund, which means money in, money out. We charge you for the service, and then we pay for the service to be provided. Water, sewer, those things are similar enterprise funds. So my salary is allocated, and most of us are across different funds. I think initially in 2018, that budget year, 18-19, when I kind of started this, it was like 20%. It's up to about 40-something% now, because the state has also said you must spend more time, jurisdiction, monitoring this. Before it was easy. We're like, WM's got it. Just let us know if you need anything. Service issues, we'll address them. But now I've got to really be on the daily, involved in it a little bit. So, it's just one of those, and it's increased to about 40% these days, which is crazy. Yeah. And lately it's felt like 80% because I've had to do this. We're getting down to the nitty gritty of this thing. So.
And our trash talker, Ashley.
Yes, this is my life all day, every day. But no, like you said, it's fine. It's cool to finally be at this point where we can, I know this is something we've been working on for a long time, and to be at this point, we're ready to implement. We're ready to, get this off everyone's plates and get the state, happy with where we're at. And so we're here, and we want the community to know that we'll be with them every step of the way. It's doable. We're going to be accessible for any questions or education needed. We're always willing to come to multifamily complexes and do resident events and come speak to tenants and schools. And so anywhere we can be, we're ready to go.
And if you've got a question, we'll have you at the first 4 farmers markets.
Yes.
So we'll have that as part of the kickoff program, a little education on the streets, if you will.
And then I was going to also tell the residents that they can visit the dedicated Tehachapi website at home.wm.com/Tehachapi, and that'll have a list of all the services, the holidays, pretty much, the service guide. The service guide will be there as well, but it'll break down into more detailed different service components. So make sure to visit that if you're ever confused. It'll have the recycling calendar that we update every year. So it has a lot of great tools and resources for the residents, and we have a business one as well.
Very good. Man. Again, science, education, all in one podcast.
It really is a science. It actually is. It's not just, throw your garbage away anymore. It's actually, there's a science to it.
I think I need to get AP credit for this, this podcast.
If Sarah Costa needs to start a class on waste diversion,
I know.
We can adjunct it. Ashley and I can adjunct it.
There you go.
Yes.
As best practices or something.
I like it.
Big money in it these days,
So Ashley, anything we didn't touch on that or events that you're going to be at? And let me say also, before we even go, let me just say thank you to WM for the community partnership. The level that WM is always there as an in-kind sponsor, no matter what it is. When we ask you, WM, to support an event, like, we'll have the porta potties and trash service at Farmers Market, July 4th, Hometown Christmas, you name it, you guys are there.
Yeah.
Yes. No, we love this community. We love being a part of this community, and we like to give back as much as we can. Our drivers, our operational specialists, they live here in the city of Tehachapi, so it means a lot to us, and we want to always be there to partner. We're always here to be great partners to the city and the local nonprofits and businesses, and so we take good pride. We really appreciate this community, and we love giving back.
Okay, then we just got to get you and Gus to move up here.
I know. That's what Hamid and everybody's always telling me. So I know.
Next time I see Gus, I'm going to put a little nudge on the side.
Yes.
Hey, when are you going to come home?
That's right.
When are you going to come home?
Yeah. Your wife's here so much, having to deal with Tehachapi.
That's right. It's your turn to drive.
I love it.
So,
awesome.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much. Really appreciate the time, the energy, and the effort, and it's good information to share.
Yeah.
Yes. No, thank you again. Like I said, appreciate all you guys and love being on this podcast. So I look forward to the next trash talk.
Yeah. And if people have any questions as well too, I mean, I had somebody walk into City Hall today with a question about it. So happy to answer. Walk in and ask, email me, request tracker it online, whatever.
Well, your office is next to mine, so I get to overhear some conversations and phone calls and things, and you are talking trash almost as much as Ashley.
Right.
Almost as much.
Yeah. And then sometimes I'm talking recycling, but I talk trash in general. It's my nature.
So, Ashley Cortes, thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, Corey, good to see you again.
Yeah.
Nice to co-host the show with you.
Sounds good. Got to show the kids how to do it every once in a while.
That's right.
Dust it off and let them know how it's done.
All right, folks. We appreciate the time you spend with us here on Tehachapod. And if there's a question based on today's conversation, join us at the Tehachapi Farmers Market. Come on out to the Chamber Luncheon where Ashley and her team will be speaking in June. Just know this is coming. It's coming from Sacramento, and we're doing everything we can to soften that blow and educate and get everyone up to speed. So, there's a transition period coming. It starts June 17th. Service starts July 8th. Keep those dates in mind. And if you've got a question, Corey and Ashley are happy to help you. Send it to media@TehachapiCityHall.com, and we'll catch you again soon. Ashley, we'll see you again. This is show number 3, so we'll bring you back for number 4.
I love it. I look forward to it.
All right, folks. We'll catch you again soon right here on Tehachapod.
Tehachapod is a conversation about Tehachapi, featuring the community members who make this such a special place to call home. If you have a question or a thought you'd like to share, email media@TehachapiCityHall.com. Thank you to Gary Mazzola for sharing his song, This is Tehachapi.